want to ask you, because you guys got some bad press recently because the National Labor Relations Board, I think the regional NLRB, rejected your first attempt at holding the election. So since April, you guys have been trying to get workers to sign union cards expressing interest in holding a vote. And essentially you had to get a certain level to go to the NLRB. The NLRB say, okay, you have enough signatures, you could hold an election. But the NLRB, within the last few weeks, denied the initial effort, saying you didn't have enough cards. Seems to me that Amazon's done some creative things to make that happen. But I wanted to ask from you, you're one of the leaders. Why is it that the NLRB rejected your first bid and said you didn't have enough union cards?
So, once again, we need to talk about passing the PRO Act. That's exactly what happened, is the fact that the workers get the short end of the stick. We did everything right. We met our requirements several times. We signed up over 2,000 people. And what happened was we only have a certain time limit to deliver more cards after we filed. Our time expired. Now we can no longer do anything. We can't file a motion to extend. We can't just drop off cards whenever we feel like it. Our time is done. Like you mentioned, Amazon did do something that was, unprecedented. They filed a motion to extend it 2 weeks past our original date, which I obviously declined. I said, no way. We're ready to go right now. The board gave them 2 days originally, and then all of a sudden, the day of, I was called into the NLRB in person. I had to go there in person, and they told me that they gave them an extra 5 days. And I didn't understand, why would you give Amazon more time instead of giving the workers more time?
Well, a few weeks back, we already had union busters in the building ever since April. But they brought in a lot more, and 2 weeks ago they started corralling 40 to 50 people at a time, telling the workers that it was peak training. They basically lied to us, and then had everybody going into a classroom, and it was mandatory. You couldn't get out of it. And then they would have a couple of union busters talking about how Amazon had our backs and everybody was being taken care of, and that we didn't have any issues, but that they wanted to warn us about this group called the ALU. Us, basically the workers of the Amazon Labor Union. And then they would make us watch a video for 20 minutes, and the entire video was 20 minutes of propaganda, anti-union and anti-ALU propaganda. But unfortunately, when my meeting started, I stood up and stood in between two of the union busters, and one of them freaked out and ran outside and called in a dozen young white male HR, safety, loss prevention, other union busters that were outside the door. They all came in wearing their yellow vest, and they all lined up at the very back of the room, and they were trying to shout me down and telling me to be quiet and to sit down or just leave. Some of them were laughing at me, and I was focused on all the workers in between us. So I had 40 people that I could talk to about the ALU, what we were about, that we were basically workers fighting for other workers, that we were there to address any issues and concerns and to increase the benefits and the pay for everybody, to tackle discrimination, harassment, all the other issues going on, and as well as everybody getting sick, injured, and we have had a few deaths in there as well. And these are important issues that need to be addressed that management is totally ignoring. So I had a dozen guys trying to shout me down for, probably about 15 minutes I was up there talking.
So one worker fighting back then brought in 12 white HR people to basically stop you?
Ran out and got, a union buster that I was standing right next to, ran out and literally got a dozen young white guys in yellow vests that were all team leaders in different departments to come in and shout me down and to try to intimidate me. And it didn't work.
So I've been here a few times just interviewing workers over the last few months. Today was the first time I came. There's crossing guards everywhere that never were here. And that's because there was, unfortunately, a fatality where a worker, I think, crossing the street was hit by a car and died. And by the way, this is not the first time there's been accidents out here. And I won't get into it because, this situation, the person didn't want to speak. But there's been incidents where Amazon knew people got hit and did nothing about it. I'll leave it at that. So can you kind of talk about the fact that Amazon's like suddenly now putting, people in to do crosswalks and all that?
Yeah, once again, this is the problem with Amazon. Everything they do is retroactive. That's what I was raising concerns about last year with even COVID. I'm like, yo, you know this virus is coming, right? And they're like, oh, well, business as usual. Same thing that happened here, unfortunately. Somebody passed away, and now all of a sudden, there's crossing guards. When we been out here, like you mentioned, and somebody was hit just in the beginning of our campaign 5-6 months ago. So this is not the first time. It won't be the last time, because these crossing guards are not even here, 24/7. They're only here for a certain amount of time, and they're human. They gotta take time off too. So they go home, and it's like business as usual once again. So, these things need to be changed and addressed. It's up to us to call that out, and us doing the visual and reaching out to the family and trying to support the workers. That's up to us. The company's never going to do that.
It's the holiday season. It's cold, and there's a whole lot of workers here that live in the parking lot that are homeless. Because we're in New York City, it's one of the most expensive cities in the country. They're not making enough to even afford to live, so they're sleeping in their cars outside here, and it's not a small number. I wanted to ask you about that because, again, the PR that Amazon puts out there, you get all these commercials that are rainbows and sunshines, and they're helping people through school, and it's wonderful being an Amazon worker. Well, there's a lot of people that are homeless Amazon workers.
Right. At last count, there were about over 100 cars in this outside parking lot and the inside parking lot, the covered multi-layer lot behind me. And they're there 24/7, including on the holidays, like on Christmas and New Year's Day when there aren't that many people here. They're here 24/7. And I feel for them. I'm one of them. So, we try to advocate, and I'm trying to hook up people with other people so that we can do roommate situations and share expenses and stuff. But the reality is that in New York and New Jersey, basically any of the surrounding states, you have to make over $70,000 just to be able to afford a one-bedroom apartment. And so, you can't do it. You can't do it without working 2 or 3 jobs in New York or working a ton of overtime in here. You have to max out at 60. You can't go over 60 hours. And it's ridiculous. You don't say that you respect the workers and that we're one big family and one big happy team, but then you treat us with such a lack of respect and dignity that it's sad. It's really sad.
And
that's why we're here. That's why we're out here.
Not to get too personal, you don't have to talk about it, but you said you're one of them. So you're currently homeless, working at Amazon?
Currently am. Yeah, I have been homeless for the past 2.5, almost 3 years that I've been here now, and I haven't been able to afford a place. None of my family's out here. I noticed a lot of people on the East Coast, a lot of them have basements in their homes, so there isn't really much of a roommate situation unless you're going to a university out here or you're over 55 and you can afford senior discount rents at some type of senior apartment. Otherwise, a lot of people get married straight out of the home or they move into their folks' basement. A lot of the families are really tight here on the East Coast, so it's been really, really tough. I go on Craigslist every single day. I've already filed for renter's assistance a few months back in Jersey and in New York, still on a waiting list for low-income housing. And the fact that I can make $20 an hour and still be considered for low-income housing it's mind-boggling because the rest of the country is thinking, well, she's making more than minimum wage. How come she can't afford a place to live? Well, it's because there's no affordable rent out here, and we don't make enough, and we don't get promoted. I've been with the company since 2017. I have an AA degree. I've trained literally hundreds of people since I've been in Jersey and New York, and I've applied over a dozen times for positions at the next level, Tier 3. I can't even get an interview.
I got to tell you, I don't expect anything from Joe Biden. I don't expect anything from the Democratic Party. But, AOC, she's in New York, Jamal Bowman in New York. Where are the elected progressives to support you guys? This is in New York. AOC is a New York congresswoman. Jamal Bowman's a New York congresswoman. Chuck Schumer's, claiming to be progressive these days, jumping on to anything he can to avoid a primary. I haven't heard diddly from any of these people.
Yeah, I think Staten Island is the misfit. That's what they call it, the misfit island. So I'm a misfit. I'm not supposed to be here. It's all obvious. The support is not as strong as it should be. And the politicians definitely have a responsibility to do that. I don't understand why they haven't done what they're supposed to do. You got to ask them. I could bash them all day about it, but that doesn't help us. So, it just.
Well, you'd like to see more from AOC, Jamal Bowman.
It shouldn't even be a question. It should be a no-brainer. Especially when I've spoken to her in person several times in D.C. and I know that they support behind the scenes or whatever, but that's not what we need. We need people to be upfront, outspoken, and in the media so that resonates with the workers here. There's people here from their district, constituents here that was actually workers on their actual original campaigns. So for them to not be here supporting is a disservice to them, not to me. I'm from New Jersey, so, none of them represent me anyway. But at the same time, the workers that do live here, live in New York, that's who they need to be here for. And they don't realize that they come from all 5 boroughs here. This building holds 7,000 workers. They're not just coming from Staten Island. So Jackson Heights, Rockland County, whatever district these politicians are from, there's workers here from there. So they should be here.
I'm really happy for the union organizers and the workers that literally stood up for themselves and made a difference for themselves and their families. I think every worker in the United States should be doing it. It's important for the workers out there to know that a lot of the locations, the Amazons in Europe, are already unionized, and they are making a living wage. They are not struggling like American workers are in the United States. So I just want all the workers to know, literally, you have to stand up. Like, all the change happens from the bottom up. Literally, the change happens from the bottom up. We can't expect the executives here to do the right thing. We can't expect the politicians to step up, even though they're paying to be represented. They're supposed to be representing us, and most of them are not, unfortunately. But just don't give up the fight. Value yourself, value your coworkers, value the teams you're on, and literally stand up for yourself. Stand up for what's right. We're here to help. We're here to protect each other. Thank you for doing what you do. You're amazing. Please donate to Status Coup, and seriously, support Jordan and what he's doing. This is incredible work. It's badly needed, and we appreciate any support that we get from you guys, customers, shareholders, anybody out there. Thank you. We do appreciate it.